Good morning, everyone. I'm Shota Deoloshegun. In today's video, we're going to dissect the poetic narrative of the universe. Well, in this video, I'm actually going to, cite the poem that I wrote in based on my discovery. Well, I have two publications, two research publications. The first one is the time theory of the universe, while the second one is seeing the anatomy of quantum gravity through formula of everything. So in the two publications I have, I derived formula of everything by using differential calculus, using chain rule. Inside the derivation, I have integration of time, energy, and mass. And so has been used, that has been used to actually solve, the biggest problem in this current dispensation, which is the unification of quantum mechanics to classical mechanics. So we're going to see, the kind of storyline that we have for the universe. Well, I uploaded one video, telling short story about the universe based on my discovery, but this time I have written a poem, and that poem illustrates the Big Bang to contraction into the singularity, the entitle of the universe. So that's what we're going to look at in this particular video. Then I want to actually, shed more light on, the nature of time, the nature of energy based on that my discovery. So now let's dive into it. Here we have time energy wave model. Well, I'm going to actually use this to visually illustrate, the poem right from the beginning to the end. But before we use this to analyze the poem, let's get to the main poem. Then after, you know, getting the whole poem, after having the poem, what the poem is all about, the meaning and all that, I'm going to as well use this. I know you may be conversant with this. This is the time energy waves field interaction. So I'm going to use that too to, visually represent what the poem is all about. So now, the universe as portrayed by Almighty God. The poem is written by Shotade Olusegun. There emerged an invisible time as wisdom, an impediment for understanding to fathom. What is this? Is this an atom? Energy asked, with frightened fangs of calcium. I am a time of instant nature. I can endow you with garments to quench your infinity culture. You seem not to discern my understanding feature. Energy answered with no hope of possible fixture. I needed to permeate space to understand my environment. That alone is my natural endowment. Energy responded with no intention for argument. Don't you wish to get yourself enshrouded in my power of displacement? You claimed to have understood your environment without my presence. Do you even know your value, worth, and essence? If you don't fulfill destiny, it is nonsense. Just give me a chance to prove your worth in excess. Okay, then, show me my true worth. Energy replied. Time swallows energy only to reveal a singularity point. After a while, a big bang emerged as complete intake was denied. Energy traverses inversely to time per constant joint. Masses emerged as new forms of energy as time is invisible. As time is visible, rather. From crest to trough, the joy is irresistible. Space is carved into a new shape as time energy moves into singularity, and finite universe is the identity. So basically, I'm going to briefly explain the whole poem, where we have, the meeting of time and energy. Well, energy could only tell that time is present by the voice of the time, but energy could not, really figure out what time is. So time is actually invisible to energy. And so they have this conversation. As nature of wisdom, because what what really made time to have that nature is for the fact that time has instant nature as well. And by having that instant nature, time can actually um, make things to be in existence while in, relationship, or while in interaction with energy. And you will get to know that as we get to the visual representation part. So now, time, energy now was curious because of that nature of time being invisible. And so time could have sensed that. So time was like telling the energy that it could help energy to actually to actually you know truncate, or to wrap energy in such a way that energy will be finite. But basically, the real truth of the matter is that energy and time, they are at the same level in the order of superiority, because time cannot see the extreme end of energy, for energy has the nature of infinity. And also energy cannot see time, because time is instant, and as a result of that, time is invisible. So now energy now use the wisdom so as to get to you know restrict. Time now use that wisdom that he has to capture energy, and energy eventually agreed to be swallowed by time. And before you know it, energy was able to get the workings of time, and energy thought that it could actually use that to overpower time. But at the end of everything, time won the whole battle, because time was able to eventually wrap up energy such that we now have finite universe. And so that is why the wisdom is the king, and then energy, having the nature of understanding, is now the last, because knowledge, time use his own advanced knowledge to wrap up energy, and as a result of that, understanding nature of energy is being imprisoned by knowledge. And that is why we have you know knowledge and understanding within the part within a dimension. And so as we progress in dimension, we can only get the fullness of any substrate dimension by moving to the higher dimension. And that is why we are always in quest and in search of knowledge, and that is why we are always searching for knowledge all the time. So now we're going to dive into the scientific part of this particular poem, which is using this time energy wave model. So now let's say, yes, we have this as energy wave and we have this as time wave. So time and energy, when they get to this point, they met right there, and so they started the conversation that you have in the poem, and eventually energy agreed for time to swallow it, and so energy was swallowed by time at this point. And being swallowed by time, energy was able to get the inner workings of time, and so energy, you know, get erupted from that singularity point. Now, the singularity point, as we have in the poem, because the nature of energy the nature of energy is inversely related to the nature of time, and as a result of that, energy could not be totally and completely consumed by time, and so there is still an instance of space that we have. So what we now have is resorted to point, and that is the evolutionary point. That is what we have right here. So now, when energy gets erupted, then energy started traveling inversely to time, and when energy got to this point, energy was able to now suspend time by imagine an arbitrary suspension up here. Arbitrary suspension could serve as illusion. So time will not be able to figure out, the position of energy by having that kind of arbitrary suspension. And then, time traveling inversely to time. Energy traveling inversely to time, and based on the nature of time can actually make things to be in existence. And so we have the emergent occurrences of the classical real mass worth, which is here, and then the emergent occurrence of the real energy worth. But now energy has a suspension here, which is another arbitrary suspension, then this arbitrary suspension, and that could serve as the symmetric nature of the universe. So now energy, the essence of doing this is for energy to actually be transported outside the time energy wave constraint, and so we have the energy right here. So when you have electron in the negative energy state, then electron will emit radiation infinitely, and this is the point where we now have energy living as infinite entity again. Now energy in its mind thought that yes, he has overpowered in its mind. So it thought that it has won or overpowered time. So here we have energy celebrating, getting back to its infinite nature. It calls for celebration. So now we have time right here. Now the whole thing has gotten to the present phase of the universe, and there we have spontaneous symmetry breaking. Spontaneous symmetry breaking, it's a point where we have a brief or slight break in motion, and so time as a result of that could resume its default nature, which is instant nature. So time now traveled down, And because time has advanced knowledge, time was able to wrap the entirety of uh, the energy's infinity to antimatter. So the value that we have here will now serve as antimatter of electron. And so the antimatter is injected, and being an inverse of electron, that will, allow us to have the flipping of the system. And so you can see that the equilateral triangle is being flipped. And so we have the momentum towards the black hole singularity. So that is the story of the universe. So we have, this is the expansion phase, then the gravitational phase. So the expansion phase could be termed as the past. The line of break in motion could be termed as the present, and then we have the future phase, which is inside the black hole. So that is the whole story about the universe. But basically, there is a formula, which is formula of everything, the T, the M, capital U, M plus 4M. Now, all these figures that you have right here, all these figures, they are derived by using this particular formula. This is the formula that I have developed in my research publication. So the way we use this formula is by using what we know to get what we don't know. So for instance, this is the electron's mass worth. When you put that in place of this M and this M, it will generate the counterpart value of a classical mass worth. Since this formula deals with unification of quantum mechanics to classical mechanics, so we have the counterpart to be 2,277,250,000 kilograms. And so by having the counterpart of this electron's mass worth, if we supply this classical mass worth in the place of the M, we will arrive back at this quantum mass worth. But don't forget that we are traversing this present phase second time, and so we will have to, the time trajectory, we have to break this suspension again. So anytime you traverse from classical realm to quantum realm, you will have to break the suspension, and by breaking the suspension, then there will be huge radiation, and that will immediately convert the infinity nature of electron to antimatter, where you have the positron. And so by having that has resulted to decaying mechanism. And so instead of having 9.109 times 10 raised power minus 31, you're going to have 9.109 times 10 raised power 32 kilograms. So with that, we can get to know the decaying mechanism of the weak nuclear force. You understand? So it's a novel discovery, and there are so many experimental physicists working on this already all over the world. So but the story, the poetic narrative, is just to to use a literary prowess that I have to explain the story that the universe is trying to tell. So that is that. So now let's get to the time energy waves field interactions. Now here we only have two fields. We have gravitational field and electromagnetic field. Now this is the whole system. By the time we have that big bang, so time is traveling inversely to energy, and so there is a suspension, because at the present phase we're able to get suspension here and suspension here. So this is the past, this is the future. If you analyze it horizontally, this will be the past and this will be the future. So by having the suspensions here, by the time we flip that, we're still going to have suspension here. So the suspension we have here is inflationary suspension. So in this small space, we only have electromagnetic field. And that is similar to what we have in the poem, where the point where time swallowed energy. So energy was able to get to the bottom of, time's stomach to understand the inner workings of time. And so we only have, and because energy, the emergent field of energy is electromagnetic field. Why the emergent property of time while relating with energy is gravitational field. So when you have time and energy relating like this, then we have an emergent property, and the emergent property for time is gravitational field, while that of energy is electromagnetic field. So now, since we only have electromagnetic field here, then energy thought that yes, it could really suspend time, and in its mind, it thought that it could use that to overpower time. So now energy get erupted, and so we have that relationship, electromagnetic field to gravitational field. So now electromagnetic field was huge here, but as energy is traveling inversely to widening time scope, then the electromagnetic field is getting reduced relative to gravitational field. And so here we have the suspension, then we have energy being transported outside the time energy wave constraint. And so here we can say, before the emergence of time from the classical realm, energy was actually in that infinite state. But time, being at the present phase, was able to resume its default state, and then time traveled instantly, and then time was able to break this suspension and then wrap up the entitle of energy to convert it to antimatter of electrons matter, which is positron, and then time was able to inject it back. So now, because this is a positron, we have the flipping of the system, and so you can see that the triangle is being flipped, and then we have momentum into the singularity of the black hole. Now here we have another suspension, because we have arbitrary suspension here, we're going to have here. So whatever we discover, because this line could serve as event horizon, and this is telling us that information is not lost. We usually have information about the entitle of the universe, the past and the future, at that region of event horizon. So now, when we have the relationship, you can see that electromagnetic field is increasing relative to decreasing gravitational field. And here, this is the gravitational phase. So you could see that there is a kind of decaying mechanism here, and then that stopped right here where we have the neutron stars suspension, where neutron star has electron being injected into the nucleus of its formation, and that would resist that contraction, and so we have repulsive force, and so we temporarily have neutron star suspension, and right inside this small space we only have gravitational field. So time was able to use that advanced knowledge to suspend energy behind its kingdom, and so time, till this present moment, energy could still not fathom the system of time. You understand? So that is the power of wisdom for you. And so now, if I'm to explain the three, the three, what should I call it, like wisdom, knowledge and understanding, the way I will explain it is that yes, I said that earlier, that time was able to use its advanced knowledge to wrap up energy, and so understanding is being imprisoned by knowledge. So the only thing that we have outside at the ground topmost of dimensions will be time, and that is wisdom. And so we have energy and understanding within the hierarchical dimensions. So that dimension, just the way I explained dimension before, dimension, we have it being interlocked into one another's. One another rather. You understand? So for you to understand 2D, the 2D must be lifted into 3D, and there is where you now have the complete picture of 2D at the emergence of 3D. Same thing, before you can get the full picture of 3D, you have to go into 4D. And before you can get the full picture of 4D, you go into 5D. So that is the poetic narrative of the universe. I believe this video is quite informative. If you like the video for real, don't hesitate to smash the like button. So it's a novel discovery. I'm going to put a link to my research publication in the description below. Anyone can click on that to explore the mathematical framework of the research publication. Then don't hesitate to share this with your friends. We want it to travel as quick, as fast, as wide as possible, so that we can have the needed advancement in science and technology. So I remain my humble self, Shota Dolusegun. God bless you.